Hi, I'm Sophie and welcome to another episode of Adult Conversation. So for this episode, we are going to talk about how to live more sustainably because I think it's quite fair to say that we are seeing the effects of climate change now. So I have with me here Thi Yun. You might know her as the Weird and Wild on Instagram, where she posts a lot of content on how to live more sustainably.
Hi, my name is Thi Yun. I'm the Weird and Wild on Instagram, and I started it because I'm an environmental studies student and I wanted to share the information that I know. So I have this hashtag called CanIBYO, where I post graphics on cup volumes of your favorite bubble tea drinks or of Starbucks and Coffee Bean. And I think when that got very popular, I started to explore other topics.
Okay, so before we start this conversation, I have to say a disclaimer, right? We are not like climate change experts or scientists. We are just two individuals who are trying to lessen our impact on the environment. And I guess we are also quite we are in a privileged position where we can afford to sit back and think about how we can reduce our impact on the environment. In the conversation about living more sustainably, like one of the first things that people do is just to try to cut out more single-use plastics, right? But besides ditching single-use plastics, what are some areas that we should be looking at?
This took a while for me to get there. It's really just to rethink everything that you are consuming. So it's as simple as when you're buying a piece of clothing, you really think about, okay, do I need this? And beyond, do I need this? Is this something that I'll wear many, many times? Or is this something that I can get secondhand or thrift it somewhere? Do I need this now? So it's really, I guess, changing your mindset from the onset to say, when I consume something, have I really thought about how and why I'm consuming? People can say that you're overthinking, but I think these are good considerations just to make sure that you're buying something responsibly. And even in terms of eating food, sometimes I think about, can I go vegetarian today maybe? Are there plant-based options that I can try? I guess if I'm eating meat, then you think about, okay, where is this source? How is it, how does this relate to climate change? And if I have time, go and watch some movies, documentaries. So I would say that it sounds like there's a lot to do, but I think a simple act of rethinking can sort of get you to just be more inquisitive about the things around you.
So, okay, when it comes to consumption habits, right, what are some of the worst consumption habits that we have for the environment that we just do every day without actually really thinking about it until you try to adjust your lifestyle?
I think the toughest for me was plastic because of how prevalent it was in your everyday life, or waste in general. I didn't realize how much waste I was, generating a day until I started to live on campus in school, and I saw how much trash I was taking out, within a week alone. And that got me thinking oh my God, in 5 minutes, I could be using 5 plastic bags, 2 straw, 2 plastic container. That was sort of the toughest because you need some habitual change to bring your container, then still wash your container, put it in your bag, and figure out now my room needs a drying rack for my container. So I would say that was the most difficult or most drastic because of how prevalent plastic or disposables are.
That's exactly the same thing that got me thinking about, shit, maybe I should not use so much disposables because, so my company had a policy where they took away our individual trash bins in our office cubicles. So it's I think it's a measure to make things a little bit easier for the cleaning aunties and uncles because they have to bend down and pick up all of the trash bins, right? So they took away our individual trash bins, and then after a while, we have a common trash bin, but you have to walk very far to get to it. So after a while, I realized that I just kept walking to the trash bin. Either that or I just left the trash by my desk or my cubicle. And after a while, I just realized, oh crap! It's I have a full bag by the end of the day. What is it that I'm doing that's generating so much rubbish? So then after that, that's when, like you said, that first thing, cut out the plastics, right? Bring your cups everywhere and all of that.
I feel that a lot of people get very disillusioned after doing all this. Is whatever I'm doing, cutting this out, making a difference because it can be offset by, someone who doesn't care and is continuously throwing rubbish. I would say that, just keep at it, you will influence the people around you. And beyond that, just make your voice heard, get involved where you can, because I know everyone's busy with different priorities. But support people who are doing good things so that they know, they have the numbers, people care enough, and they are trying to make changes that could make things easier for everybody. Yeah, so there are a bunch of people that you can follow online. So I think in terms of fashion, there is this girl called Rachel, or also known as No Carrier Please, where she started with single-use plastic but has sort of progressed to talk more about sustainable fashion, slow fashion. And even for food, thinkats.sg is now working with 3 Dots to say, to sort of share about food waste and how we can reduce food waste through group buying of, unwanted food from corporations. So it's quite a complicated issue in general, but there are very many areas where you can live more sustainably, and even beyond that in your workplace, different workplaces you can do different things at different places. So it's just looking for where you can get things done and what you can tweak in your daily life.
Next question that I have for you, right, is what is your incentive for living more sustainably?
I think from the onset, I guess for me, I already cared about the nature, about the earth. So the incentive seems very intrinsic in that I felt that, whatever I was doing was harming the earth. I have sort of a responsibility to reduce it, or if there are ways where I can reduce it, why don't I do it? It's almost like if there's a better way to do it, why not, And I guess even now, there has been greater incentives in that if you bring your own containers for some establishments, you do get discounts and you do get some sort of support when you BYO or bring your own, for example. And I think beyond that, there is some sort of, I guess when you sort of hear the news about the environmental disasters around the world and how your consumption sort of contributes to it, the incentive would be, I'm still quite young, I'm 23, and there's still quite a long way on this earth for me. And my incentive would be that hopefully in the future, the future that I and my children will be living in, if I have any, it would be that I just don't want it to be as, tough or as harmful as it sounds like it's going to be. So I think living sustainably was something that I sort of fell into once I started doing certain things. So it's as simple as ditching plastic. Then ditching plastic gets you to think about, your consumption. And I think it is not as difficult as you think it might be.
So how long did it take for you to adjust to this?
I would say that I guess our current system makes it very difficult for you to practice sustainability in that, sometimes you have to bring your cart, bring your container, and then bring your bag, bring a lot of cutlery. Sounds like a lot, and I think that's because our current way of life is very plastic heavy. So it took me a while to remember, and I think it's sometimes when you forget, you feel very guilty. And I would say that guilt is very normal, but try not to let it consume you and say, okay, I may forget now, but I'll make it a point to remember. I used to hang the reusable bag with everything inside near my door before I leave so that I visually remember. Slowly you'll pick up, and eventually it'll just be like a consciousness in the back of your mind to remember these things when you go out.
Okay, but speaking of individual actions, right, that brings me to the next question. Do you believe that individual actions can actually make a difference?
I would say that yes, individual action makes a difference, and I think I would say that because it goes beyond just your consumption. So now a lot of individual action is focused on, reduce your plastic, change the way that you consume, eat less meat, and I think those things help, and they definitely go a long way because what you're doing is you're trying to signal a way of life or at least some values that you support with your dollar. But there is always a limit to where that kind of individual consumer habits go. And I think individual action needs to be taken further. So I do have people who drop me a message and say, how else can I get my company or this company that I love to do more? And I think some ways would be, write into them and say that I had a friend who wrote into his favorite, chicken rice establishment who was still using plastic. I think last year, and he wrote in to say, hi, I love your food and I come here very often with my family, but can you remove plastic from your establishment? I would love to support you in that endeavor. So here are some resources that you can go to or speak to make that happen. So I think those moves will be the next step for individual action to add more pressure. And I think beyond that, you'll be following people on Instagram like Speak for Climate or SG Climate Rally, who are trying to achieve systemic change in different ways. And individual actions in that sense would be to provide support to people who are doing these things, and also to make your voice heard, I guess, to corporates, to your MPs, for example, that you want another lifestyle, that you know they can probably make greater changes in terms of policy making or business decisions. So individual action can move beyond consumers and should move beyond consumers to citizens of the earth.
I'm interested to know about your friend who wrote into his favorite chicken rice store, right? Was he effective in getting them to make a change?
Okay, so he didn't really reply, I guess, update me on what happened. But for him, it was, he could be the first person or to write this email, or actually, maybe his chicken rice store could have received a lot of such comments, and perhaps his might be the one that spur them to make some change. So he said, just try, you never know what you might achieve. And he will continue to keep writing in until he sees some changes. There's this girl on Instagram called BYO Bottle SG, where she used to have email templates for you to send to your favorite bubble tea stores to ask for no plastic.
Wow,
yeah, okay. And I think, I wouldn't say that there was, or at least I was not aware whether there was direct change, but I think she managed to speak to bubble tea owners to see what they can do because there was some interest. And I think places like Nine Fresh actually changed the way they scoop their desserts to make it more BYO friendly. So we do see change when people are more vocal about what they want.
One last question. What is something that you want people to remember when they're trying to live a more sustainable lifestyle?
I think the first one, I guess I always live by rethink your consumption. And it's just as simple as asking yourself different questions when you consume. And I think that leads to more change in that it gets you more curious to think about what else in my life am I consuming irresponsibly, and how can I contribute to a more sustainable lifestyle. Perhaps individuals should feel that you are not alone in this journey, and I know some people feel very I'm the odd one out in my circle of friends, I'm a bit scared to do this or voice out about my sustainability interests or even beliefs. But I'll say that there are a lot of people online now that you can meet. There are Facebook groups you can join or Instagram pages where you can connect with. So don't be afraid to reach out and find your community so that we can encourage each other to do better.
And that's all we have for you today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll see you on the next episode of Adult Conversation.